And you can see the Melbourne Storm players here acknowledging their sold-out fans. This is the quickest-selling game at Amy Park in history because everyone wanted to be there in this final home game, a grand final qualifier, to hopefully see their team through to the 2024 Premiership game. If we take a moment to honour the skipper, Harry Grant, 4 try assists tonight, that goes down as the most from a forward in the NRL era.
Incredible. I mean, the thing that we talk about the 4 try assists, but if you watched his opening 20 minutes, particularly from a defensive point of view, the small little 1%ers in his game were outstanding. You know, the inside pressure, kick pressure in particular, so they don't start their sets where they want to. But then, as the longer the game went on, the more the fatigue started to set in with some of those forwards, the better he got. I mean, he sees an opportunity, Von, and he just does not miss. Does not miss. Some of his guile and creativity in that. Around the ruck, particularly online, set up a few tries, he's a special player. He really is.
The consistency of Melbourne Storm under Craig Bellamy over a long, long time will always get them to about this stage of the year. Like it's almost given that they'll play deep into September. The one thing that's probably let them down in losing the last 2 prelim finals is their gun players, in particular their spine, haven't been their best players. And that's been the Melbourne Storm sort of philosophy for a while. Tonight, they were the 4 best players. They put a cricket score on the Roosters. They're doing the simple things well, like their completion rate was great, 9 line breaks, low missed tackle count. And when you do those basics well, it allows the spine to stand up and deliver. And I know that Melbourne Storm really put time into Harry Grant there.
He's loving it. The Roosters fans absolutely dishing it up to Harry, and he's taking it like a champion.
Well, he dished it up on the field and then copped it off the field, but he's an absolute star of our game. And I think the spine are in really good form to take down the Premiership next week.
Yeah, the improvement that they've made over the second half of the season, I think, has been noticeable. Post Origin, Harry has played his best footy. There's no doubt about that. Jahrome Hughes has been that all year. Munster has improved. The injury, he just looks freer than he did when he hit the field back in, I think, round 21, 22. He made his return to the game. Pappenhausen has become more confident the longer the season's gone. And whenever they start that role, they are relentless. Grant, Hughes, Pappenhausen around the middle of the field. Munster who had 18 runs tonight. Like when Munster runs the ball 18 times, you know you're in a bit of trouble defensively.
And a lot of that came later in the game, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
It was just an opportunity, as you know, when one player was going great, he sort of sits back and bides his time. We see some of his highlights: 18 runs for 177 run meters, 7 tackle busts, 3 line breaks. I mean, a couple of tries. And the longer the game went, the more it opened up for Cam Munster. And you could see, and Michael Ennis spoke about it in commentary, you could see he just wanted more of the game.
He's trying his luck, isn't he?
He kept going. He was like, I'm not content here. I want to score more tries. I want to put more points on. And that was how it all unfolded.
I think they're a good example for every other spine in the competition, that the connection, their reaction, when one of them move, the rest follow. It's almost like they've got an anchor tied to everyone's leg, and once Harry Grant moves, the 2 halves move, and that forces Pappenhausen to become a support player, and he's the one that always chimes in for the line break. But yeah, I think the fact is that the footwork, the speed, the connection that they put together, it's going to take a very good defensive performance next week to stop them.
Both are so aware of what Harry Grant's doing with the ball. So, and as Cooper said, they don't miss a beat. Once Harry gets out of dummy half, and if he starts to go forward, their reaction is immediate. On either side of the ruck, it's Hughes, it's Munster. Either side of the ruck, Harry Grant will go to the line, and he can pick one of those players up who don't mind just running space. They'll just run into space, and Harry will hit them with the pass, and they're both strong and quick enough to generally get out the other side.
The Storm spine best in the NRL for you, Cos?
Oh, easy.
Yeah,
without doubt. I mean, when I say easy, without doubt, there's some good ones. The Penrith spine is very good, but when you're comparing, and no disrespect to Mitch Kenny, but when you're comparing Harry Grant and Mitch Kenny, they're 2 very different players, but they're 2 very good spines.
Beautiful scenes there with Cameron Munster and his family. We've spoken about Jahrome Hughes. Let's have a look at some of his highlights from tonight's game. He was so up, and maybe we're taking more notice because it's such a critical time in the season. But Cooper, how do you see the evolution of Jahrome Hughes?
Just like when you're talking about being a gun halfback of the competition, you've got to be great at a lot of different things. You've got to be a good kicker, good organiser, you've got to be a threat, you've got to defensively hold your gloves up, and you've got to be able to communicate and run the team. He does all of them almost 9 out of 10. And depending on who they play next week, this guy's in confidence. His confidence is through the roof. So I love the fact that when he runs the football, he's a threat. When he's kicking the ball, it's because the team needs that right kick. And defensively, he hardly ever gets found out. So there's 3 areas of the game that make him elite. I'll tell you what, the confidence he has right now with that inner swagger that he carries around at the moment, tell you what, pretty impressive.
And the pass kick selection is just first rate too. Like, you know, who he hits with the pass, his short kicking game, and his kicking game has been underestimated for quite some time. But it's as good as any. And then we saw 2 tries where he's just running space. Like he's running like a back rower. He scores a try, like 2 tries just with his power close to the line.
We've all commented on how the Storm maintain these impossible standards. It doesn't matter who's in the jersey, they cycle through different people, but the standards always remain the same. The one consistent is Craig Bellamy. How does he now approach and put a nice little bow on tonight and say, well done? And then when does the focus switch towards grand final and grand final week?
Probably about a minute and a half ago.
Right, yeah, I think so.
There's no doubt they have planned what the grand final week looks already, but they don't let the players know any of that. Craig Bellamy's greatest strength is he thinks in the now. He doesn't worry about it too much, but Frank Panisi, the football director, will do all those things. So they already know what the week looks like. But in terms of Craig Bellamy, look, everyone's looking to know what is the secret sauce of Craig Bellamy. With all due respect, it's pretty basic. It's hard work, humility. That's what he bases everything around. It's work harder than the opposition. It's give a team first mentality. And when you do those 2 things from 17 players, even down to player number 30 on your list, I think you get a lot of people rowing the same direction. And the consistency piece, they'll always be there for the big games, but then it's really over to the best players to start delivering some titles. And I think they did that tonight.
When you compare it to Corey, a team that was in the grand final this time last year, have just gone through a 2-week external review and have departed ways with their coach in the Brisbane Broncos, you can hardly imagine a time when the Storm would have to call in an outside eye to run an audit to see how things are working. It's exceptional how the Melbourne Storm have a little bit, they've got their own little microcosm going on down there and it all works.
Yeah, Craig's obviously the driver of that and Frank Panisi in the football department, but they don't have any, like, there'd be some standards at Melbourne Storm that are just not negotiable. Like, don't even bother asking. Just non-negotiables, when done for long periods of time, Von, just generate success. And they just don't deviate from that. And we've seen over time, from when Cooper was at Melbourne to where the team that we're seeing now, they have evolved their game. They have thrown a little bit different to what we've seen over yesteryear. But those non-negotiables have always been there. So working hard, competing, preparation, all those things. And when they have been, for a better word, when they have been sort of a little bit of leeway in that area, they haven't got success. And it's, you know, you look at Penrith and their training standards must be of a high quality to be able to go out and execute over a longer period of time. That's just the differences. I mean, yeah, they got some great stars and they got some wonderful players, but they've also got a lot of players that just do their job. And having a player understand if you go out there and execute your role, our stars can shine, and in turn, everyone gets, you know, a lick of the ice cream.
Yeah, I think your senior players too have to be. Yeah. They have to be special.
Yes.
You got to have senior players that, you know, there's a culture and there's non-negotiables, but the senior players drive that. Drive.
And to hold accountability.
They drive it.
Yeah.
Cooper, you lived it. Like you lived it. You, Cameron Smith, Billy Slater, and others that weren't stars but great senior men. Like, that's where your club is.
Yeah, I think it's the principle that Penrith have built their success over a long period of time. Stability in your key influential guys. And the one indicator of whether you've got a club that is stable, strong and working hard and in unison is when your gunplay misses out, like a Nathan Cleary or a Cameron Munster, someone else comes in and steps in and does the job. Schneider did it for the Panthers. Someone like Tyron Wishart has stood in and done the job for the Melbourne Storm. So, yeah, the gun players are so influential, but the reason why the other players underneath them improve and get better is because the gun players help them. They get the basics done from everyone else in the coaching staff, but the reason why they're paid the big bucks is they win games of football on the field, but they also improve the people around them off the field.
You know what the key is when there is gun players missing, when some of those influential senior players, when they are missing, the other players' workload or how they approach the game or training doesn't change. So all those part players that do great jobs but aren't the name players, so there's a couple of senior players missing, they don't change what they're doing. That's why those teams stay competitive, because the players around the great senior players don't drop their bundle when the great senior players are missing. That's what makes a good club.
It's an entire collective, and you can see that unity in the good clubs, especially
because it goes right from 1 to 30. So it doesn't matter how far you go down and how many injuries you get. Yes, you're going to be hurt every now and then. You'll lose a game, but on the whole, it just keeps going forward.
The only query heading into this grand final for the Melbourne Storm, Nelson Asafa-Solomona, and it happened right off the kickoff. We knew that the collision and the contest and the physicality was going to be there for the taking. Nelson took his shot, but he got it wrong in the eyes of referee Grant Atkins. Was it a sin bin?
Look, to the letter of the law, what we see, potentially a sin bin, yes, Von. I don't think.
Now, what does the match review committee
I don't think he misses the grand final for that. I just don't. It's an area, and Brendan's been really vocal about it. It's an area in the game where you've got two individuals running full tilt at least 20 metres before they come into contact. It's very difficult to go a low tackle there. When three players come in on one, you can't go low there. We saw Tolu Kola do it last week, knocked out, rubbed out for the game. Now, I understand that, yes, Lindsay Collins is out in this game, but at 2 metres tall, when Lindsay comes in and just sort of turns, I just don't think, in my own opinion, Nelson should be missing a grand final for that.
See, it is the process, and it doesn't, whether you're running the ball or whether you're defending. Running the ball, well, you just run, do your best. But it's the defenders that come in that have to think about where they are in terms of the man carrying the ball. Now, Nelson didn't look like he did anything different to what 100 players do every kickoff. They run in, and it's a collision, isn't it,
yes,
Corey? It's a collision. Yeah. No one goes low because you have three players meeting at the same time on one man carrying the ball. You can't get low. But you have to, we love the kickoff, but there's got to be more thought to it, I think, from both sides, from the man running the ball and also the defenders. I don't know what you do about it.
Shortening it, do you mean?
I don't know what you do about it, but we saw a spate of them early in the year, and we've seen two in recent time. One, the attacker cops it, Lindsay Collins. Now, that's a Category 1. Now, does that carry any more weight than just a high shot? Like, Lindsay Collins out of the game. Didn't take any further part in tonight's game from the kickoff. Does that carry more weight when the judiciary look at it and go, well,
Does the injury come into the equation?
I think it does. Yeah, I always think it does, doesn't it? Force and injury always comes into the equation when you're talking about a high shot.
It's not like a grand final week with a little bit of drama led into it. I agree with the sin bin. And I think I'm a little bit with Corey here. I don't know if it's going to get charged that he misses a game. Look, there's some mitigating circumstances. Like that right arm is actually around his player, Eli Katoa. There is space. It's not shouldered to the jaw, but there is obviously contact there. It's more chest, if anything. So, look, I think the Melbourne Storm will fight it, whatever the charge is.
Yeah.
It's right on the cusp, and his
what if he's
record
already
might
had
play
a few offences so far this season?
I'm not the match review panel, but I think it sits right on that edge, and it's whether you can debate about it to get that player off or not. But I think it's right on the edge of it.
They got good lawyers at the Melbourne Storm.
About to find out.
We will watch and wait all week, but it'll be a fascinating 24 hours for the match review committee to see how that email drops in the morning. Well done to the Melbourne Storm, 48-18. Finals winners at Amy Park. Some beautiful scenes here. Luke Keary, of course, what an incredible figure he has been in the NRL, first for Souths and, of course, the Roosters. And Jared Hargreaves, also a departing Roosters champion, embracing Craig Bellamy. This is our retiring class of 2024, brought to you by Host Pass. And what a distinguished group this is for the Roosters.